Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Gabe Strong, a DPM video producer based in Juneau, Alaska. Driving across the Herbert River right now, taking advantage of it being a nice day and being a freelancer, which means a day off of work for me. As I'm pulling into the parking lot at my destination here, I see... Is that you, Joel? Arkansas, a long ways from home, that's for sure. Nice days like this don't come along a lot in Juneau, Alaska. But it's a nice one today, so I'm going to take advantage and grab my e-bike and take a little trip.
This particular ride is one of my favorite rides here in Juneau.
And here's the trailhead, and it's the Herbert Glacier trailhead. That's right, we're going to ride out to a hanging wall glacier. Now this trail is about 5 miles each way, so not too long, but a nice trail through the woods here, and you can always have some interesting sights on this trail. For example, here's a old car that just got left here.
Well, unfortunately, it looks like the river has washed out the trail here, so I'm going to have to go on foot from here on and do a little bushwhacking to get through this area. But once I get around this flooded area and get back on the trail, it should be a lot easier going. As is often the case when you're a freelancer, you go from no work at all to being swamped. And I've got a big 5-day documentary project now. Getting the gear lined out here. Got the camera, some batteries, a couple lenses, lights, C-stands, and you can see here all kind of piled up ready to go load out into my truck. And I've also got the softbox and Fresnel attachment for my lights. And then a lav mic, some cards, cords, headphones, XLR cords, and power cords. So got to get all this gear now loaded out into my truck. So here I am at the first location, and it's still sunny out, so I'm going to have to throw up a big silk here because there is so much direct sunlight. Don't need any lights, but I definitely need to even out some of the lighting here on the face of the interview subject as the sun is really bright. So I'm using this Matthews frame to put up a silk, and here's my interview setup. As you can see, it's a pretty simple setup. You can see I've just got a microphone boomed in there right out of frame and the silk to give us some good diffusion on the sunlight there, and I'm just running with a Tamron 28-75 2.8 as my lens, so not a hugely elaborate setup. Here's a look at what the shot looked like through the camera lens.
You know, we really didn't have time to think about that. It was just our way of life.
So this is my reminder that things often don't go as planned on shoots, and a big part of the job is figuring out how to solve these issues that come up. I hired a friend of mine, Soren Seiberts, to come and work with me on this shoot. I've worked with him before on several projects, and he's always done a good job. He is also renting gear from the big city of Anchorage and bringing it with him. But because of the fog here in Juneau, his jet can't land. Notably, he is bringing 2 Sony UWP D27 wireless mic systems. This system integrates into the hot shoe on the FX6. You put the receiver on your hot shoe, and have 2 different transmitters, each with a lav mic, so you get 2 channels of audio through the hot shoe with no wires.
This is my first time here, but the city is so amazing.
Yeah, it's really beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, one of the reasons I am renting this system is that every audio guy I knew in the state of Alaska was booked, and I could not get one for this shoot. Almost all shooters were actually booked as well, and I was lucky to get Soren. But with no audio guy, we will still be able to have mics on 4 separate people and get good audio from them all during panel discussions. And if we need to get audio from more people, I have a couple XLR wireless lav mic sets that we can bring in via the XLR ports on the FX6. But the other nice thing is that with these setups, if we only have 2 people mic'd up, which is what we are doing on some of the walking tours we are filming, we can send the exact same audio to both cameras. Along with this system, he is also bringing a Sony 24-105 stabilized lens and a Sony 70-200 stabilized lens. But he can't get in, so until the fog clears up, I have to go solo on this and just try to do my best. Living in Juneau means you cannot depend on gear rental from rental houses, and you must be prepared by owning enough gear to get by. Luckily, the first day was the day I shot the outdoor interview with the boom mic and silk, so not too much needed for that. And the second day started off with a 2-hour presentation by one speaker, so I can use my existing wireless XLR system on the FX6. Alright, luckily the weather has cleared enough for Soren to make it in, just in time. Here we are with a 4-person panel discussion. We've got both FX6s with each one of them hooked up with the wireless system, so we have 4 microphones, one on each one of the presenters here on the panel. So let's take a listen to this audio and see how it sounds.
My name is Richard Peterson. I'm Kagwantan from the Eagle's Nest House. Just inspired to hear my brother speak. I realized when he was speaking he was using place names that I was recognizing, and that made me feel really good.
Now, along with several sit-down panel discussions and meetings, another big part of this project was some walk and talk tours. Well, now when we did these, I let Soren use my Easy Rig. He was using the 70-200G f2.8 lens on the Easy Rig, and I was using the 24-105 Sony G f4. They're both stabilized lenses, so we were using those on these walk and talk tours. As we'd be walking with a group of people, he would be getting the tights, I would be getting the wides, and we each had a wireless system on our Sony, and we each would have wireless microphones on different people depending on who was going to be talking, who was going to be asking questions and the like. And this was kind of the best way that we could figure out how to pull off this sort of a group without having an audio guy running around with a boom. Like I said before, I could not get an audio guy at all. I was actually calling down to LA to try to get one in, and was just having a hard time finding one in the time period I needed him for 5 days in Juneau. And it just seemed like everyone I knew of was booked, so it was a little bit difficult. But this system seemed to work all right for what we were doing. It's not as good as having an audio person, but a lot better than just having what we would have had without it, that's for sure. One other thing I'll say about this wireless system is we had thought about using it and stripping one of the FX6s down and trying to put it on an RS3 Pro gimbal, but you have to keep the handle on, and then mounting this wireless system on top of the handle just makes it too top heavy and too high to actually really work well on a gimbal. Even with the RS3 Pro, it just adds some weight and height to the FX6, so we weren't able to pull off using it on a gimbal, which is why we went with the Easy Rig and handheld. But we didn't really need a gimbal look. It would have been nice to have a few gimbal shots, but this worked okay. So, what's your expert review on this whole setup? You're an influencer. Come on, what's your like?
I'm not very influential.
Well, there goes Soren's chance for a big payday from Sony. Let's take a listen now at some more audio from this wireless setup.
Takes to get the power back, and I was sitting next to Al Shaw, and people from Juneau will recognize that Al, who was born and brought up here, family came way early in the 1900s, to be the director and docent at the Territorial Museum, which was in the Capitol building. He did that for many years and was warmly regarded. Will Rogers, the Cherokee humorist, was a man who got to write columns about all his travels.
So here's the room we turned into our production room. Kind of store some gear around here. You can see the tripod and the Easy Rig bag, some headphones, batteries. Here we've got the two FX6s, one with the 70 to 200 on and the other with a 28 to 75 on it. And you can see they both got the Sony wireless system on their hot shoe. Then over here we've got the DIT station. I've got a dock hooked up and we've got cards dumping from multiple places. We've got the slot in the MacBook Pro itself, as well as a Sony card reader here that will read CFast cards. And then there's another card reader there in the dock, so I can be dumping 3 of them at once. And you can see 2 hard drives, spinning hard drives in the back there, and then another hard drive over here, an SSD, along with our battery charging station there. And here you can see I've turned our production space into a interview setup. Got a softbox here for the key light on the opposite side of the camera and a Fresnel for the backlight. And I shot it like this. I have the window in the background because I'm going to be shooting later at night, and I think it will give us a nice blue look in the background. So let's take a look at this footage and how it looks out of camera.
He was a letter writer too, and he wrote uplifting cards and congratulations to people throughout all Southeast Alaska, and they were very treasured, and I was fortunate enough to receive a couple of them.
So my conclusion, if you're an FX6 user, this wireless mic system is definitely interesting and worth a look. I'll put a link to it in the description field below this video. Really, the only negative I found was that you have more weight on your top handle, and the mic sticks out in front a little as well. But the sound is great. No audio cords are needed, and you can get 2 transmitters that both go back to the receiver. You can even get a handheld stick mic to work with this system. Really, it's a great system for a one-man band or small crew. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you on the next one.